Masters.
Starts next Sunday at 1, live on BBC Two and iPlayer.
The Tea Time News now on BBC One with Clive, Myrie.
Hello there. Thousands of Eurostar passengers have been left stranded on one of the busiest travel days of the year. A flooded tunnel meant all services to and from London St Pancras station were cancelled. Workers from HS1, which runs the affected line, have been trying to pump out the water all day. Here's Mark Ashdown.
Crowded platforms, frustrated faces. Eurostar passengers hoping for a New Year's break or just trying to get home faced a day of disruption. All 41 services scheduled to run today between London St Pancras and Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam were cancelled, leaving thousands of people with their travel plans in tatters.
I am just devastated. I've just had a little cry. I just want to get home. It's New Year's Eve tomorrow.
It's because I'm desperate to be to Paris. I'm really, really desperate to be with my family.
We could have booked flights today, and I wish we had. So, yeah, I will question whether Eurostar's the best option.
A lot of people just sitting down and waiting. Seems like they're in for the long haul. We'll have to wait and see who goes and who doesn't.
Thank you. Oh, look, there's an announcement now.
Fingers crossed.
This was the cause. A train track turned into a river. Water cascades into the Thames Tunnel near Ebbsfleet. Track operator HS1 described it as an unprecedented volume. Engineers with pumps and tankers worked through last night and all day today to bring the water levels down and try to get things moving.
This is not the first bout of major travel disruption over the festive period. A last-minute strike by French workers on Eurotunnel saw major problems in the days running up to Christmas Day for those trying to travel between Europe and London. And Storm Gerrit caused widespread havoc across the UK last week.
There has also been major disruption on Thameslink rail services today across London and the South East due to staff shortages. And tomorrow there will be no services on Northern Rail, also because of a lack of staff, and delays are expected on London North Western and Chiltern railways. Eurostar has apologised for the disruption and said customers with tickets could exchange them or apply for a refund. Some might be able to claim compensation. With the Met Office issuing yellow weather warnings tonight for wind, rain and snow for large parts of the UK, it is unlikely we've seen the end of the travel trouble.
Yeah, so if you are planning to travel over the next few days, expect it to be unpredictable. In terms of the situation here, I've just been for a wander inside. It has thinned out a bit since earlier. Some people have managed to get home if possible. Others maybe booked overnight accommodation if possible, or alternative travel arrangements if possible. Some, though, no choice at all but to sit it out and wait for the first available train. Right now, it's unclear when that will be. I think Eurostar hoping rather than expecting trains will be up and running first thing tomorrow morning. They do say they will contact customers directly, though, with information. They do say this tunnel has to be made safe first. Once things get back to normal, I'd imagine some pretty frank conversations will happen between the various parties that run the tunnel to try and stop this ever happening again, although that will be small comfort, Clive, to those stuck here tonight.
Indeed. OK. Mark, thank you. Mark Ashdown there, live at St Pancras in North London. Now, officials in southwest Russia say 14 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after a series of Ukrainian airstrikes. Now, the attacks were on the city of Belgorod, just 25 miles north of the border with Ukraine. A source in Kiev's security services has confirmed to the BBC that Ukraine was behind the attack, but says the target was military infrastructure. Well, James Waterhouse is live in Kiev for us now. James, this must be one of the biggest attacks on Russia proper since Moscow launched its strike on Ukraine last year.
You're right, Clive. It is. These attacks against the grain, if you like, while uncommon, are not unprecedented. We've seen Ukraine launch drones in that Belgorod region, as well as in Moscow itself. Now, in the past, Kiev has been reluctant, shall we say, to officially claim responsibility. But as you say, the security service has said it was in response to the unprecedented Russian aerial bombardment Ukraine experienced yesterday across major cities in the country, where 39 people lost their lives from 150 Russian missiles launched. Now, this is the biggest the most concentrated loss of life in Russia that we have seen. But there's also a psychological element here too. When Ukraine mounts these attacks, they're looking to apply psychological pressure on the Russians, who are able to turn away from the continued invasion of its western neighbour. When you see explosions in the street, when you see destroyed cars, it makes it that much more difficult. The Kremlin has promised it won't go unpunished, but the sentiment you hear in Ukraine over and over is, how much worse can it get for us?
Sure. OK. James, thank you. James Wardhouse live there in Kiev. Fierce fighting has continued today in the Khan Yunis area of southern Gaza. Meanwhile, the Hamas-run health ministry says in the last 24 hours, 165 people have been killed and 250 others injured following Israeli military activity. Thousands of Palestinians have been moving further south towards Rafah, close to the border with Egypt, to escape the fighting. A man has appeared in court accused of murdering a 46-year-old man who was hit by a car while he was giving first aid to a stranger in Sheffield. Hassan Jangur, who's 23, has been remanded in custody and is also facing 5 counts of attempted murder. Chris Marriott had been out walking with his family when he stopped to help an unconscious woman, but was hit by a vehicle and died at the scene. The actor Tom Wilkinson, who starred in the hit film The Full Monty, has died. He was 75. He played Gerald in the 1997 comedy about a group of steel workers in Sheffield becoming strippers after losing their jobs. The role won him a BAFTA. Tom Wilkinson, who's died at the age of 75. Now, opposition parties have strongly criticised the former Prime Minister Liz Truss's resignation honours list, which includes peerages for a Conservative Party donor and a former special advisor. Labour says the honours are a slap in the face for working people. Ms Truss served just 49 days in office. Ian Watson has that story.
In September 2022, Liz Truss became Prime Minister, but she spent less time in number 10 than any of her predecessors.
I am resigning as
After
leader
6
of
weeks,
the
she quit
Conservative
as
Party.
Conservative leader, and after 7 as Prime Minister. She was entitled to a resignation honours list. She made 11 nominations, one for about every 4 days she spent in office, and 3 of them were given seats in the House of Lords. Matthew Elliott, a long-time supporter of tax cuts, was a leading light in Vote Leave. John Moynihan is a businessman who donated to her leadership campaign, and Ruth Porter was a close advisor and previously worked for a free market think tank. In a statement, Liz Truss said, "I'm delighted these champions for the conservative causes of freedom, limited government and a proud and sovereign Britain have been suitably honoured." Liz Truss had faced opposition from her own MPs after a mini-budget had pushed up borrowing and scrapped the top rate of tax. Opposition parties say her time in office shouldn't be honoured.
Families across the country are paying more on their mortgage, more in tax, more on their credit cards as a consequence of decisions taken by Liz Truss. And these are rewards for failure.
Some campaigners say Prime Ministers shouldn't automatically be able to put their nominees into the House of Lords.
This isn't the only peerages that Prime Minister Truss has made. She made 29 earlier when she was serving as Prime Minister. So that really highlights the problems we have in the system at large.
But this former minister said she was only following convention.
Liz Truss took on the most senior political job in the country of being Prime Minister, which is a role that comes with enormous responsibilities.
But privately, some of her colleagues wonder whether it was responsible to remind people of her time in number 10. Ian Watson, BBC News.
At just 9 years old, Tony Hudgell is the youngest ever recipient of a New Year's honour. He's been given a British Empire Medal for his services in preventing child abuse. He's raised over £1 million for charity. Here's Lisa Mazimba.
Tony Hudgell's adoptive family describe him as an inspiration. They're not the only ones. At 9 years old, he's believed to be the youngest ever recipient of an honour, thanks to his incredible fundraising efforts over the past 3 years. Tony was so severely physically abused by his birth parents, both his legs had to be amputated. He initially set out to raise £500 for the hospital that saved his life by walking 10 kilometres. It's fair to say he's overshot that target. So far, he's raised £1.8 million. His inspirational journey has taken him to Downing Street, to meetings with royalty, and now to the awarding of a British Empire Medal.
I'm feeling really happy and really excited.
So proud of him. I mean, he absolutely deserves it. Everything he does, he's always thinking of others. He's just done so much in such a short time.
Next year, Tony will have to slow down a little as he's due to have a major operation, but he's aiming to be back fundraising in 2025. Lisa Mazimba, BBC News.
In the Premier League, Chelsea survived a late surge from Luton to win 3-2 at Kenilworth Road, and in the Scottish Premiership, Celtic beat fierce rivals Rangers 2-1 in the Old Firm derby at Celtic Park. Kyogo Furuhashi scored a stunning second-half goal, and despite a late Rangers revival, Celtic held on to extend their lead at the top of the table. That's it. I'll be back just after 10, but the news continues here on BBC One as we join our colleagues for all the top stories where you are. Bye for now.
Hello, welcome to BBC London. I'm Lee Milner. Well, as we've been hearing, Eurostar has now confirmed all of its services travelling to and from London today have been cancelled, affecting thousands of passengers. It's due to flooding in a tunnel, which is causing massive disruption. Earlier today, Eurostar had said it was hopeful services could resume this afternoon, but it's now called off all 41 trains. South Eastern Rail's high-speed services to Ebbsfleet have also been cancelled for today. Meanwhile, other operators, including Thameslink and LNER, say services will be severely reduced tomorrow, with cancellations on some routes due to staff shortages.
Well, unfortunately, there